What's going on, guys? Marcus here with the Reformation Woodshop. Today I'm going to be unboxing and demoing the 36 by 32 inch flattening mill for your trim router by Crafted Elements. Bigger style routers and CNCs are super common in flattening materials, but did you know if you have this router sled, you can use your palm router to get the job done? So setting this guy up was really simple. The first thing you're going to need is a platform that is 36 inches by 32 inches. If your workbench happens to be bigger than this, you can just mount it directly to the bench, but really the best solution to make it mobile is to build this base like I did here. Straight out of the box, all of the parts and pieces are very self-explanatory. You've got your rods that basically make up the x-axis of this router sled, which makes it so that you can go left to right, and then your rails that make up the y-axis, which makes it so that you can go up and down. Public service announcement: if you didn't know, this is a family channel and my kids help me on every single project, and I wouldn't have it any other way, so you're going to see them all throughout this video, so just be prepared for that. If you cut your base to 36 by 32, then when you're screwing in your two 36-inch linear rails, it should fit perfectly. You want to make sure everything is square, so after you get one of your rails mounted to your base, make sure that the measurement from each side is exactly the same. After you screw your rails to your base, you can put together your router base plate. All that requires is putting your handles on and taking your 4 closed linear bearings and attaching them directly to the bottom. You want to make sure not to screw it in really tight. You don't want there to be any tension as it rides along the bars, so go ahead and slide your bars through the bearings while the screws are loose, and then tighten them up while those bars are in place. The next thing you're going to do is put together your crossbar brackets. And what that requires is taking your 4 open linear bearings and screwing them in on the underside of those brackets. You'll notice that the screws are kind of different and don't really line up on one side. That's because those screw holes are for your 4 end shaft mounts. And those will have a screw that's a little bit longer that not only goes into your acrylic but goes into your bottom bearing as well. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job. Before you get to final assembly, you want to make sure to put your router base plate on right now, because you won't be able to access those screws once everything is put together. Now, like I said before, if your base is 36 by 32, you'll bring in your 32 inch 20 millimeter crossbars, and they should fit the expanse perfectly. And now that we're at this step, it's starting to take shape and you can kind of see where we're going with this thing. Your 4 end shaft mounts have Allen screws that make it so that these bars will never go anywhere while you're working with it, so go ahead and tighten those up at this point. And finally, to make sure that your bearings don't run off of your sled, you've got 4 C-clamp stops for the end of each of your linear rails. And just like that, you have a flattening machine with the smallest footprint possible that takes up minimal space in the shop. And because this video would be super lame if it was just an unboxing and a putting together type video, let's get to flattening something. So I'm going to go ahead and take this huge piece of mesquite that I have that is about 1 inch on one end and 2 inches on the other, that obviously needs flattening, and see if I can take some material away here. It's important to note that you should secure your material down to your base, so I just drove a screw straight up from the underside into my wood. I don't actually have a flattening bit that fits my trim router, but this plunge bit from CMT Tools works perfectly and is doing the job exactly how I need it to. If you haven't had the privilege to work with mesquite, I'm telling you that you're missing out. The aroma, the color, the grain pop, everything about it is beautiful. Sometimes I tend to talk too much and get over carried away with explaining. I'm just going to let this clip play and we can all collectively enjoy the flattening ASMR. Because this slab is so big and I want to use both sides, I'm going to chop it in half so I can make a couple of cutting boards out of it. I'm only going to flatten it halfway because I want to keep as much material on it as possible. So I'm going to be done with this slab for now. If you're observant in any way, you'll notice that I shanked my slab here a little bit at the top. When working with this thing, just make sure that your bits are extremely tight so that they don't fall out of your router. I do have this mesquite cookie as well that I'm going to go ahead and throw on here and see how it does with end grain. I took this one very slowly because just like before, it was extremely uneven, but it was also really brittle, so it kind of sketched me out. Because this was a small piece, I do think it came out better than that large slab. It was very, very consistent. Despite not having a flattening bit, this plunge bit worked perfectly for all of the wood that I've been cutting. And now you have a completely flat side that you can flip over. Do the exact same thing too with your router sled, or run it through your planer or wide belt sander, whatever you prefer. I know I just showcased 2 projects on this flattening mill, but I'm really impressed with how sturdy and solid it actually is. The goal in the coming months is to do a little bit more epoxy work, and this thing is gonna help so much. This is actually the slab that I milled up and cut in half and then sliced in half again on the table saw. It's almost unrecognizable. After flattening with the router sled, I cleaned it up with the sander, took some of the bark off, cut it to length, and now I can lay it in my mold so I get a better idea of what it will look like when the epoxy comes in. Both of these pieces of mesquite are going to be extremely unique cutting boards, and I'm really excited for it. I want to say a huge thanks to Crafted Elements. They sent this flattening mill to me because I featured it in one of my recent videos talking about everything that has to do with routers, and they realized I didn't have one, but I did feature their clip, so they went ahead and sent me this one. So if you want to get one of these for yourself, go to craftedelements.com and click on the router sleds tab. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. If you watched this video and thought to yourself, man, that was so good, how can I give this guy money to repay him? Then you're in luck. I have a lot of stuff listed on my Etsy store that you can buy to support the channel, so head on over to reformationwoodshop.etsy.com to grab something.